You have no idea what I'm capable of.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the top custom cards of the week. Starting off, we've got Kaiser Dormu, a 6-mana free 6 legendary rogue dragon with battle cry. If your deck has no duplicates, get a random no duplicate legendary from the past or present, and set its cost to 1. For this card, definitely design free star, balance 2-star. I think that this effect doesn't, first of all, feel kind of too fitting for rogue. I mean, getting a random card from another class, essentially, because, you know, there's no other rogue Highlander cards, definitely fits the thief rogue theme. But for it being from the past or present, I don't really understand why it's doing that for rogue. It also, balance-wise, kind of muddles up the pool quite a bit, to where this card becomes a very swingy card, where when you play this, it can either get you something extremely good or something extremely bad, because some of the old Highlander cards are definitely not that good. I mean, setting their cost to 1 obviously would improve them a little bit, but you could get something like new or old Reno Jackson just when you need it, and that could feel really bad because there's so many different options for this card. So I think overall the design definitely doesn't really push for a fun gameplay experience, and also the balance just seems a little far off for this one personally. Next up, we've got Gaia 117 Nomragon Scout, a 2-mana 2-free mech with Forge, gain +1/+1, and after you forge this, draw a card, and can be forged 5 times. Design 4 stars, balance 1 star. This card seems almost too good. Like, just being able to forge this each turn and draw a card, even just 5 times still, it's like providing the Warlock hero power to each of the classes, and they also don't have to take the damage, and instead they're building up this big minion that they get to eventually play after they're done. Seems just too versatile. Like, I would put this in a lot of my decks. I think any deck that I feel like is lacking card draw, this is the perfect card. Just throw in there for no real reason other than you just draw a ton of cards with this. So I think overall, I think it's a little too strong there. So that's why I'm kind of rating it a little low on the balance end, or as low as it really can go. Design-wise, though, I think it's really neat. I think being able to have a forge card that has a different effect each time you forge it is pretty cool as well. And I could see them, if they do bring back the forge mechanic ever, doing something like that, where you can forge the card a number of times, and you get like this bonus each time you forge it. So I think it's a really neat idea, but I think the way it's implemented is a little too strong. Next up, we've got Brave Knight. This is a 2-mana 2/4 taunt with, right before this is attacked, return this to your hand. This is my top card of the week, my bionic card of the week, as I referred to it last time. For this, though, I'm going to give it a design of 5 stars. Definitely, I really love the flavor and theme of this, and a balance of 4 stars. I actually think, though, this card is actually a little too weak. If you think about it, this card just gets completely countered by most spells in the game. You can go around this effect and not have it return to their hand ever. And also, it's just this card that kind of gets stuck in your hand. Even if it does successfully block a few attacks, it's likely going to be just getting swung into by a 1/1 or something really low value, and then they don't even lose their 1/1 either, like they normally would with just a 2/4 taunt. I think you could maybe bump the health up a bit on this card, maybe make it a 2/6. We've seen, you know, that be a successful stat line with downside, like Dirty Rat. Or you could increase the attack a little bit to make it a little more punishing if your opponent does leave this up on the board. But overall, I really love the design here. I think it's super cool. You got this knight who's pretending to be brave, running into the field, and then immediately turning away and running the second there's the slightest sight of danger. So I really like the theme of this card very much. Next up, we've got Time Loop Voyager, a free mana 2/4 rogue card with Battlecry, add a random card from the past to your hand, combo, do it again, quick draw, do it again, finale, do it again. Design, 1 star, balance, 4 stars. I think this card's balance is probably fine. It hardly ever is going to actually get you 4 cards, and the cards that it is getting you are also kind of weak. So, I mean, I'm giving it a 4 star just because I don't know, it's kind of hard to judge. I definitely don't think it's like, ooh, this is the perfect balanced card. It's just, you know, it seems fair enough. Design though wise, again, getting cards from the past for Rogue is a little weird in itself, but also why, like, I don't understand why this card has quick draw and finale. Like, I get it that he's, you know, messing with time, and so he's got these keywords from the past, but why is it specifically quick draw and finale? Like, where's the theme between Festival of Legends and Showdown in the Badlands here? I feel like it'd make more sense if it was like a time traveling cowboy or something, or like a performer of some kind, to have those specific keywords from the past. So the flavor just feels a little off there. Also, just because I'm a little nitpicky, it should say get a random card from the past. You don't have to say add from your hand or add to your hand anymore. It would clean up the text box a little bit, make it look a little bit better. But yeah, I don't really quite understand this card too much. A card that I do understand quite a bit though, and I really like the design on this card, we've got Patch's Sand Gambler, a 2 mana 2 free legendary demon pirate with tradable, and after you play a 1 cost card, draw this. Design 4 stars, balance 5 stars. I really like this card a lot. My only tiny little gripe with the card is that it's not a 1 mana 1/1, but I also agree that the balance of the card probably doesn't want it to be a 1 mana 1/1. So I personally maybe wouldn't have picked Patches then as the main guy in the card. Maybe had like a more unique character, because Patches is very much synonymous with being a 1 mana 1/1. But I get why they picked it. It's, you know, you're drawing this from your deck, you're getting it out of your deck, which is what Patches did. It's just, it's not going onto the board, it's not a 1/1, doesn't really have anything to do with pirates. So that's my only thing with this card. But other than that, I think the effect is really, really, really neat. You could play a 1 cost card on 1 and then play this on 2, and you just got a really nice curve going early on in the game. But more likely you're wanting to play a 1 cost card, then trade this, and play a 1 cost card, and trade this, and you get like a infinite 1 mana draw card pretty much off of this, or 2 mana draw card. But it's, unlike that Forge card I discussed earlier, it's got the requirement of you playing a lot of 1 cost cards in your deck. So it really shakes up how you build your deck in a very interesting way. I really like this card a lot. Next up, we've got Zamu the Stranded, a 1 mana 2 free legendary demon for Warlock with Taunt, Can't Attack, and Battlecry. Add Zamu the Patient to your hand. Zamu the Patient is a free mana free 5 with Taunt and Can't Attack. You might be noticing a pattern here. It has Battlecry, add Zamu the Ready to your hand, and Zamu the Ready is a 5 mana 6/8 with Taunt and Can't Attack, and it has Battlecry, add Zamu to your hand. And then Zamu is a 7 mana 10/12 with Taunt and Can't Attack. Design 3 stars, balance 3 stars. I don't really understand the design on this card. It feels like you're just playing a lot of taunts that can't attack, and then you get rewarded by getting a bigger taunt that can't attack at the end. I also think balance-wise, the front half of this card feels very strong, with you being able to get a 1 mana 2/1 and then a 3 mana free 5 out really early on in the game. Those will very much shut down early boards on their own. They value trade into a lot of things. And by value trade, I mean minions that would want to trade into it are likely going to die themselves. And then the second half of this card just feels kind of underwhelming. So, like, while that sounds like it would be balanced, I feel like the swing early in the game kind of makes this card an auto include in some decks, where you're wanting to be very controlling in the early aspects of the game. And then, you know, the second half of this card, you don't really care for it, but, you know, it's still nice to have. You throw these last two Zamus down when you're desperate for a play. But I think what I would do with this card is maybe lower the impact of the early versions of the card. Maybe cut some stats off of the 1 mana and free mana ones. Maybe higher the impact of the last one. I think the last Zamu should definitely be able to attack. I think maybe you still lower his stats a little bit, maybe, perhaps, but or maybe even gives him some other effects like lifesteal could be pretty interesting. But it feels weird to just be building up to this minion that isn't really anything special. That's just what I feel design-wise. I don't know, it just doesn't feel too special when you actually manage to play all of the Zamus. Next, we've got Jogging Dinner Hunter, not Demon Hunter. I misread it the first time I saw this. It's a free mana 0/8 card for Demon Hunter, and it has, when this gets closer to the left side of your hand, give it +1/-1 and Outcast charge. Design 3 stars, balance 4 stars. My only problem with the design of this card is it's a little hard to understand. Like, I didn't understand it when I first read it. I had to look down in the comments, and a lot of people in the comments also didn't understand, but I eventually tracked down exactly what this card does. Essentially, after you draw this, nothing happens when you draw this. It doesn't technically get closer to the left side of your hand, I don't believe. After you draw this, whenever you play a card to the left of this card that is in your hand, this card will gain the +1/-1 as it moves closer to the left side. So it's like an effect that's triggering. It's not a passive effect. It's not the closer this is to the left side of your hand, it has this much stats or whatever. It is an effect that is happening each time you play a card to the left of this. And I think that's actually how it should be worded. I would word it, when you play a card to the left of this in your hand, or when you play a card in your hand that's to the left of this or something, do this. I think it's a little confusing how it's worded right now, which is why I took off some points for design. But other than that, I think the effect feels pretty neat, and I think it feels pretty Demon Hunter-y. And I like the idea of it potentially being a little mini win con of sorts. Like, you know, you get this big charge guy, provide a lot of pressure at some point after you build him up enough. You could potentially even shuffle this back into your deck. Oh, actually, I don't think that would work. I think when you shuffle it back into your deck, it loses any enchantments that it has, if I remember how that works. So, but yeah, I think this is a neat card. Cool little Demon Hunter design, very unique. I think that's one of the reasons it's kind of hard to understand, is just because of how unique the effect is. So, I really like it though. It's really cool. Next up, we've got Goblin. It's a free mana 1/4. We've set this card's cost, attack, and health equal to this turn's corresponding place in pie. Design 1 star, balance 1 star. It's a complete meme. They did point out though, on turn 746, this card becomes a 0 mana 9/9, so that's kind of neat. You know, just wait it out. You'll eventually get something real good. So, just a couple more turns. Next, we've got Riven Dreamwalker. I think that's how you say it. It's a WoW dragon name, so I have no idea. It's a 5 mana free 15 dragon with battle cry, take 10 damage, overheal, get a Lich King card and a Dream card. They cost 0. Design 3 stars, or design 4 stars, balance 1 star. I like the design of this card. I read up on the lore that they had posted in the comments, and it seems like this kind of effect definitely fits the idea of the card. Apparently in the boss battle, you were supposed to heal this dragon to full, and that's how you won in World of Warcraft. So that's a pretty neat way of doing that, by giving it overheal. And, you know, I think it fits Priest and Druid to a certain extent. Though the balance on this card is pretty strange. If you're able to cheat this card out, first of all, such as summoning it from your hand or your deck directly and circumventing the battle cry, this card becomes very strong. Because you could play so many, especially in Priest, there are so many cheap heal options that would be able to overheal this, and you'd just be able to play a crud ton of Dream cards and Lich King cards. And on top of that, there's a Lich King card that restores 5 health to a friendly character. So this could potentially go infinite with that, and that would be very bad. And kind of is one of the reasons I docked a point off design and a point off of balance, because the design of the card strictly makes the effect potentially go infinite, which very much messes with the balance of the card. So yeah, I like the idea. It's very well made and obviously thought out lore-wise, but I think its effect is a little too strong and potentially could go infinite. So those are my problems with this card. Lastly, we've got a doozy of a card that made it to the top. Maestra the Headhunter, a 2-mana free 2 legendary for Rogue. We opened up with a legendary and we're closing out with a Rogue legendary. So this card has a different effect based off of your opponent's class. So for the sake of this card, since there are 12 other cards to look at here, I'm not going to discuss every single card that this could transform into, but I did look through them all. And the balance of, I'm going to give the design of this card 3 stars and the balance 1 star. I think design-wise, it's pretty neat. I like the idea of having a rogue card that changes depending on what your opponent's class is. It fits that OG thief rogue kind of feel where you're messing, where you're getting cards from your opponent's class specifically. But this time, this card itself transforms into a new card based off your opponent's class. So it's a nice spin on that effect. And I like the design that they went for with kind of each of the cards themselves kind of being tech options for the individual classes. Like the Druid one is you destroy one of their mana crystals to kind of counter against Druid ramp. The Warrior one is that they lose all of their armor, your opponent. So, counter the Warrior entirely. My problem, though, balance-wise on this card, and a little bit design-wise, is that each of the Maestras, it has their own cost, and their effects are so, different in power level depending on the class. Some of them are just like, you get a 2-mana free 2 that destroys a beast, and that's like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. But like the Warrior one, like I mentioned earlier, that makes the opponent lose all their armor, is extremely good against a Warrior. Like that is an insane counter. I know we had Plate Breaker in the past, but this on this card, I don't know, it just feels so much more powerful because it's a tech card that is teching against every single class. If you're not against a Warrior, the Plate Breaker in your deck becomes a card that will help against your current matchup. What I would definitely recommend for this card is pick a base cost that all of the Maestras will cost, and then make sure you balance your effects around those costs. Like, I understand why they made the different costs, because they knew that each of the different effects were so vastly different and swingy in their own right. But I think, first of all, some of the effects are still kind of ridiculous, and overall, I think this card is extremely good. And also, I feel like design-wise, it makes a lot more sense to keep them all the same cost, so you know at least the cost of the card that is in your deck. You don't, maybe you don't remember exactly what its effect is, for each of your opponents, but you'll at least know how much it costs, and it, helps give that little bit of information back to the player. But with that is all of the top cards of this last week. Again, let me know how you enjoy this series down in the comments down below, and make sure you point out any broken combos I might have missed. I really love seeing millions of the same comment telling me that Test of Faith also deals 17 damage, because if you swap the healing for damage, it it will become extremely overpowered. I picked up on that. Might have noticed after the first 12 comments. Jokes aside, though, I do appreciate your guys' comments, and I appreciate that you guys are sticking around to keep watching. So thank you all for being here, and I hope to see you all again very soon.